Hello, and welcome to Historical Fiction with Kviatoslav. Today, I'd like to focus on a series from the 1980s called the Falcon series. This was an interesting series by Mark Ramsay there, and the 1980s themselves were kind of a dry period for historical fiction overall. There, it was mostly dominated by the so-called Bodice Rippers and things like that. And you could say that this series is kind of a response to that, and that's a very much an action adventure type of series there. Um, I've got three of the four books in the series there, and the series actually concerns a French knight who goes by the very manly name of Draco Falcon. And it's basically kind of a revenge tale. He is a mercenary knight who accompanied Richard Coudillon on the Third Crusade. And in the course of that crusade, he was actually betrayed by four different knights. I think in the first one, the name of the knight who betrayed him was one called Gunther Valdemar there. So they're all fictional characters. There's nothing particularly historical about this series there. And basically, he's betrayed into Islamic hands, and when he escapes, he returns to Europe and forms a mercenary company. And basically, the books are him and his company trying to survive and make a living, as well as get revenge upon these knights who betrayed him there. So it's a very much a kind of action adventure series. It's very light on the history there. In fact, it reads more a bit like more of a fantasy series. But the author himself is an medieval combat enthusiast there. So there's a big, heavy emphasis on kind of fighting, combat, and moves and so on there. And it's a nice adventure series. It's a bit of a it's not particularly deep. I mean, even compared to things like the action adventure series of Robert E. Howard or Harold Lamb. It's not quite on that level. You're not going to learn anything particularly historical in this series there, but it is good for kind of light entertainment. And as you can see, it was clearly done in the 1980s, and it does have a very 80s kind of action hero feel to it. And the covers themselves are very action 80s oriented there. Second book is called The Black Pope. After he gets revenge on the first spoiler, but he gets revenge on the first knight. He continues on his quest into France there to get revenge on another knight who betrayed him. In this case, it's the Archbishop de Beaumont there, and this one's along the way. He also has several kind of love affairs. It's very kind of passionate in that way, and then it's got lots of action, lots of sex scenes there. And in this one, the bishop is actually running a cult in southern France of these kind of evil monks who dress up in black armor and actually go around and and actually there's a bit of kind of sodomy in it as well there. So there is an interesting kind of vein. The actually in the first novel, Draco himself, when he's captured by the Saracens, there's actually text of him being sodomized by his captors there. So it does go for the sensational, but also you could say it doesn't try to pull any punches and say it was a very, very bitter dark age there. But yeah, this one overall says some pretty scary villains there. And after revenge on the first two figures, you think you've generally got an idea. And I thought, since it's a 4-book series, each one will have revenge on one of the characters. But the third book in the series actually takes a bit of a detour. And in this one, he's the Draco Falcon is not pursuing one of the knights there. He's actually, this one takes place in medieval Paris, and he's got the Knights Templar, and it's mostly primarily about a tournament night. It's got a lot of details on attending a tournament, and I think it very much kind of overdoes the deadliness of tournaments there. But this is probably my favorite one of the series there, even though I do think it kind of derails the series and takes away. It's no longer the kind of the epic quest of revenge there. It feels a little bit like the author was trying to lengthen the series a bit there. And I've heard that the series from the author that he never actually finished it. So even though it has 4 books and 4 kind of natural stories of revenge built in there, I don't think the series actually went that far. I would give these ones, they're kind of a soft recommend from me, in that I think that they're very much, if you're interested in kind of action adventure, and particularly in combat, in medieval combat, there's a great emphasis on that. It's also got some, lusty scenes as well there. They are a bit kind of leave your brain at the door type of entertainment there, where I don't remember a great deal about the plotting from them, because plotting was not particularly important there. But overall, I'd give them a recommend if that type of book appeals to you. As I said, I enjoyed them. I just wouldn't rank them particularly high on my list of historical fiction. So overall, that's called the Falcon series. The Yeah, another thing I would say is maybe the protagonist. I didn't find him particularly likable. He's Drake. His name is Draco Falcon, which just feels like too much of a generic. Doesn't sound very authentic, and too much of a generic kind of hero name. And he's almost really too competent. He's one of those kind of flawless heroes overall. So I didn't find that particularly likable about him. But like I said, overall, I can say I enjoyed the series. There wasn't anything I disliked about it, so I would give it a recommend if it sounds like the kind of thing that you'd like there, especially with emphasis on the action adventure kind of a little bit almost pulpy style to them. That's the Falcon series. Thanks for listening. Bye.